Hey, what's going on YouTube? Nick and Shane here from the Real Heroes Show to talk about the Book of Boba Fett episode 4. Shane, how you doing tonight?
I am good. Better episode this week, so I'm in a good mood.
Yeah, me too. It's funny how that works, right?
Yeah. Makes my whole Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. And then it makes the week a lot better because we're not in some sort of distaste of how we got Star Wars this week. And then looking onward to a better week, which we did get. So if you haven't watched this episode of Boba Fett yet, there will be spoilers. But if you have, then continue on, we shall. So this episode, as we just said, was so much better. And we're going to rant a little bit here, but we're going to rant in a good way. Because this episode did a lot of good things. We'll get the bad stuff out of the way because there was about one or two things that would just, it's not so much being nitpicky, but it's still things that it's not doing well, or things that it needs to be just outright done with. And that is the back to tank scene.
Yes.
Like, we get it. Like, this is the fourth episode.
Every week.
Yeah. Like,
it's like the same shot every time. Like, if you were like binging this series, and I know we get it every week, but if you're binging this series and like, let's say you like edited them all together, they probably use the same flashback back to tank shot like 8 times or something.
It looks so identical, and I feel like that's
so here we go again.
Yeah, and I think, like we said before, just use that like hazy fade in scene instead, because we have established and we know that, oh, well, that means we're going into a flashback, not like, hey, we need to see him in the side of the back tank in the background of Tatooine with the twin suns, and then he's the overhead shot where like we know Boba's in the back to tank and he's got the scuba thing to his mouth and he's breathing, and then his bubbles. Like, we don't need that. That's time you could use to another scene, or extend another scene a little bit more, add a little bit more context to more important scenes. Like him being in a back to tank really isn't that important.
Right.
So
the flashback, I guess I know it's a visual mechanism to get us to the flashback, but there's so many more efficient ways to do that. And like by the 4th episode where we're doing the same thing again, it just gets old. Although we got that little quote from the droid after he was done that he's like, "Congratulations, you're fully healed," which makes me think flashbacks are done. Now rest of the season is present day only.
Yeah, it was an interesting remark, because I wonder if he still has some sort of internal damages, or
I think she meant that emotionally. Fennec, I think she was saying like it needs to heal you on the inside. I think she meant that as like you're a dark old man inside or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. So we'll see if he doesn't say, "Hey, I need to go to the back to tank again," in the last like couple episodes.
We'll all just rejoice.
Yeah, I'll be glad if that's it. So, but moving into the flashbacks, or the flashback itself, which established more of how things have come from the past to the present. He and again, it's showing more of I guess Boba's mindset and his goal, right? Like, we get the Mandalorian season 1 episode 5 connection where he sees the flares, and we get the Mandalorian like theme like momentarily, just brief enough that we like triggered like, oh, it's Mando theme. And so we can now establish a timeline. Oh, okay. And then obviously he rescues Fennec, and then we'll get to the second part that just again wasn't good. And I don't think, again, it doesn't need to be in Star Wars. Like, not Star Wars. I'll retract that statement. Not in Star Wars, not on Tatooine. And I'll preface why in just a moment. So
I don't even think it, just tone wise, it feels so weird compared to the rest of the show and the rest of what we've seen in Star Wars. Like, Star Wars can have, like, look at the Clone Wars, like the first couple of seasons where it's like very childish and very different tone than normal Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And like goofy stuff can fit in certain instances, but like it's like a weird cyber techno scene in the middle of this like gritty bounty hunter show, and it just doesn't fit. I don't know. It almost reminds me kind of like when people complained about the humor in The Last Jedi, where it's like these jokes aren't necessarily bad, they just don't fit in this scene. This is kind of how that feels, where it's like it's not necessarily bad, it just doesn't feel like the right place for it in this show.
You're right, and I feel like you remember Lucas talked about him wanting to do a Coruscant TV series long time
and
ago.
that would totally that would fit.
These scenes, these groups would have been perfect for that show, that like genre. Not on Tatooine. It doesn't match. It feels, you're right, it feels so out of place. And like we were briefly talking off screen about, I feel like planets like Nar Shaddaa, Corellia, maybe, or obviously Coruscant, like it fits more there. Like obviously, if you've played the Old Republic or KOTOR, cybernetics exist, and you could even create a character that has them. It's obviously a part of Star Wars, just not on the outskirts of Tatooine, much less like on the streets of Mos Espa either.
Like we've never seen anything like this on Tatooine and we've spent a fair amount of time in Tatooine in the original trilogy and in the prequels even.
Yeah.
And none of this has really come up. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way.
Yeah. And for those of you,
cyborgs.
Right. Okay. And for those of you who are watching going, well, Nick and Shane, do you have a better suggestion? I do, actually. How cool would it have been if Boba goes to a mechanic, someone that can repair or even mod things, and just says, hey, look, I only work on pod racers, not people.
More of like because the way I kind of got Tatooine, especially in episode 1, was their kind of driving industry is like auto shops.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you're driving down like a bad part of town, it's like AutoZone, auto shop, AutoZone, auto shop, like 4 in a row. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I agree. That would have been a little bit more of like a full circle. It's like poetry, right?
Yeah, and even then, like again, we see more Vespas, and I'm just like, yo, these do not fit here. Like, we've never seen a Vespa in like 40 years of Star Wars.
Yeah,
on Tatooine, much.
Why not like the speeders like Luke had? Or even like what's that guy's name? The mayor's assistant dude. Like speeders like that. I figured that would
Major Domo.
Major Domo. Yeah, like his speeder. Those types of speeders are what I would have assumed people are like tricking out.
Right. I think it would have been cool to see something like those speeders, but tricked out, right? Like, you could even make fun of it and be like, oh, look, it's just, Tatooine's version of the Fast and the Furious, right? But
that's kind of what Tatooine is, right?
Yeah, you've got pod racing. You've got, the key word here is racing.
Yeah.
Not like we're in Italy and we're riding around Vespas. Like, listen, Tatooine and Italy are two completely, different vibes and feels. So, but kind of getting back on the plot here, Fennec is saved, and after she's worked on, she basically owes Boba. But Boba, proposes something very interesting to her and saying, I want to start my own house, and I've got a good proposal for you, like loyalty. You'll get a part of the shares. You'll, basically be my right hand, person. And she decides to go along for the ride, and he's got some debts to pay. And one of the best, coolest parts, I think, of this episode was when they go back to Jabba's sail barge where the Sarlacc pit is, and I'm like, and I think I don't say we were misled, but I think we were almost led to believe that he had killed the Sarlacc pit when he escaped. Because I know in the book he had killed the Sarlacc. But again, if it's like movies, if we don't really see it die, then it's not necessarily dead.
Right.
So because Fennec's like, don't get too close, and it's just like hovering over it, like almost like a horror movie. And then I'm like waiting for it. And then
I felt that scene was maybe a little unnecessary, but I didn't dislike it, if that makes sense. Like he should have probably remembered that he escaped with his armor on. Like the fact that he thought the armor was in there was a little bit weird. Like I guess he was delirious, but like
it fell back in or something like that.
So that was a bit weird and a bit contrived, and it felt like like a fan service type of moment. Like, no, he's going to go back to the Sarlacc pit and kill it.
Right.
Especially because he kills it with a seismic charge. Woohoo,
Yeah.
Everyone cheers. It's the sound. Woohoo,
Yep. The episode 2,
we all clap.
Attack of the Clones throwback there, which was cool. I mean, like, I liked the effect, like the, I liked the
I like how dark it was, like that scene. It was like a horror movie, which I really enjoyed. Like the direction of that scene was very, very well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like how, well, I should say I like, but I thought it was interesting how he tells Fennec that I have to get my fire spray gunship, which
Dude, Slave One was trending on Twitter today. Of course,
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
Like,
but that is, I will say, as it'll always be Slave One to me. And to think about it in context, if he had said, "I need to go get Slave One," Fennec could go, "The hell is that?"
Right? Yeah.
So like,
I just don't care. Like, it's the name of like a random bad guy's ship that like was never uttered on screen and just put on a toy box for 30 years. And so, whatever. I totally get it. Like, we probably don't want to be glorifying something called Slave. Totally get it. I'm fine with that.
I almost feel like, aside from the name, they would also say, and I feel like they will say this, because he's no longer a bounty hunter, he's basically changing everything, right? Like, he's not just sporting his Beskar armor anymore. He's, still wearing his Tusken robes underneath it. And so he's merged, and again, like, this whole thing of Boba Fett is basically like his new identity, right? Like, I want to start a house. There's more. We need to be smarter. We need to do things better. We need to save lives. I'm like, come again? Boba said save lives? What?
The thing that is so interesting to me about this, and this is more of a complaint of the show itself rather than this episode, is we finally figure out what the hell Boba's motivations are. 4.5 episodes, or I guess 4 episodes into the show, like more than halfway through the show, we finally figure out what the hell he wants and why he's acting this way.
Yeah.
And I get that we needed some like backstory to fill in his changed character, but like, it felt like these 4 episodes should have been like the first 2, and they could have like cut a bunch of stuff and combined it and made it into 2 episodes rather than these 4. Because like, we're more than halfway through the show and we finally know where the show is going. Like, it hasn't really gone anywhere until right now. It's setting up for, the inciting incident and like all of the third act type of stuff. But like, we were just remarking last week about how we didn't know why Boba was like soft now, and then they talk about it in this. It's like, why didn't you talk about this before?
It's so coincidental, and and it's just one of those things where you're looking at it at this point in time where we are, 4 episodes completed. We've got 3 remaining. I almost wonder if it would have been better to start the season off only one time using him in a bacta tank, and then we tell the story of his flashbacks, which leads to the present.
Yeah.
And we get all the flashbacks out of the way. And then once we're in the present, we can establish, like, okay, we know what his past was. We can fit and fill in the gap after Return of the Jedi to where we see him in Mandalorian season 2 and how Fennec is saved in season 1. And then how he's been taking over since then in the present day. Like, that would have made more sense instead of this flip-floppy, like, well, we got to tell the story from back then and then now, and then, oh shit, we've got 3 episodes left to really emphasize his purpose. Like, it's almost like a missed opportunity to really establish why Boba Fett, why this book of Boba Fett exists in the first place.
Yeah, and like, it felt like the current day story was kind of treading water for 3 episodes while we got the backstory out of the way. So if you're going to do that structurally, like you said, you could have used the first episode or maybe 2 to just tell the backstory.
Yeah, 2 episodes.
Like, you could have told that story in maybe an hour, but instead we got these like 38, 35-ish minute episodes that kind of fill everything in. You could have done like a 58-ish minute episode 1, that you start out when he's in the back to tank, you flashback, you tell the whole flashback story. Yep. And then episode 2, you start this current day story and you condense everything. Like, there's not like all these random, like the Hutts showing up and then disappearing. And like, it felt like all of these things were just kind of thrown in there to like meander until we get to this final war plot, which is where the show is actually going. But yeah, it feels a little bit weird. It felt like they didn't have enough setup plot. And so they just kind of like meandered their way through 3 episodes while they told the backstory. And now they're finally telling this story. And there's only 3 episodes left.
Yeah. And listen, I love some good fan service, right? But I love a good story even better. Yep. And I feel like the Hutts in some essence were just a little bit too on the nose for fan service. Like, oh, we have to include these twin Hutts, you know, and then, oh, well, yeah, sure. They gift him the Rancor and Danny Trejo, which, where is he?
Yeah, where'd he go?
He just
Robert's not
disappeared already.
So Danny's gone.
So bye, Danny. And again, it's like skipping those scenes and obviously focusing on who the real, antagonists are, i.e. the mayor and the Pike Syndicate.
Yeah.
That would have saved us a lot of time. It would have made things in the present, more substantial and more prominent. And as like, okay, this is where we are. This is what Boba's plans are from the past leading into the present. We know he wants to establish a house.
Yep.
He's got his ship back. He's got his armor back. He took care of Bib Fortuna. He's got his palace. Now he's just making a name for himself. But you took 4 episodes to do that. And even then, like you've got 3 episodes to have a war and then lead to somewhere else. Like, I mean, talking, about how he does that, right? Like the one last, like a little Easter egg I'll mention that was, I guess, worthwhile, was when they get into Jabba's palace.
Can I talk about the drainage ditch real quick?
Yes.
Like, the plot convenient drainage ditch that never existed until this episode, and they cut through. Like, Luke could have done that in Return of the Jedi.
He could have.
Instead of this whole plot, just cut through, go into the kitchen. It worked.
Yeah. Very, very interesting.
What's the point details of the door? There's a giant ass door, and then there's like a little drainage ditch.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that there are 2 doors, because the one that C-3PO and R2-D2 go through is the same one that Luke goes through and goes from bottom up and closes down. This one went from the ground up, because when the little like spy droid it zoomed in as the gate was going up from the ground.
So maybe it's the back door.
Right.
The back door has the drainage ditch. I don't know.
But even then, like, you don't think Luke knew about that? He's lived on Tatooine for how fucking long?
The whole plan was like you mysteriously get somebody in there to plant them in there, but really he could have just cut with his lightsaber and walked right in.
Exactly. Like,
apparently that's what Black Chrysanthemum did.
Yeah.
Fix your security.
So he just go to the giant back door. Like, he's huge. The 2 chef droids. One
General
was the same one. General Clevis. Yes. Oh my god, that's a great name.
He's trained in the culinary arts by Count Dooku. I'm sorry, bad joke.
General Boba, how are you doing?
I really needed Boba to say hello there, and he didn't. I was upset.
Or if Fennec did that at that point. Yeah. Just one of the two, because he just looked all menacing, and Boba was standing there, and then Fennec just pops up right next to him and just decapitates him. Like, super simple. But I like how the sous chef droid was the one from episode 6.
Yeah,
that was you. All right, protocol droid. Are you not?
I did. Yeah, I recognize that as well.
Yep.
And then they've got that like suicidal droid. It's like a rabbit.
Yeah, I don't know why it reminded me a little bit of like Dobby. From Harry Potter, like with the 2 ears that just ran around, like, Dobby must run from Boba. And then like just switches itself off. I'm like, did the droid just commit suicide? Like, is that what that was like a metaphor for? But going to the better points of the present, I think overall this season, as soon as they showed Jersantin in Garce's what is it, sanctuary or whatever it is, like the bar, and he's just eyeing those Trandoshans down. I'm like, yo, he is going to fuck them up.
Yep.
And he starts flexing as Garza calls them, knuckle dusters.
Yes.
And just goes over and just starts beating the shit out of every single one of them. And then grabs the last one, and then Garza's trying to talk him down. And I'm like, no, Garza, no. Yeah, and I'm like, please let it happen. Please let it happen. And then he rips one of them off. And I was like, yes!
Yeah, yes! You literally complained about this last week about how he didn't rip anyone's arms out of his socket.
It's like they listened to our video and were like, don't worry, Nick and Shane. It's coming in episode 4. Yo, got you guys.
Did you notice how much better the action was directed this week than last week?
Yeah,
because we got like the speeder chase and the Black Chrysanthemum fight last week.
The fight
was significantly better. Like it looked so much more better and more visceral this week than it did last week.
And then like a real bar fight.
And then you've got the gunfight, which was pretty well directed as well. I like the little the shot of like the ramp closing, and she shoots it as the ramp is closing the door for it to open. I was like, oh, that's
she nice smirks too, like
nice little visual scene. Yeah, I thought that was good.
Yeah, she's got some moves. She did like that Black Widow, like backflip thing, and I'm like, okay, all right. So we know she's a master assassin, as Boba has iterated a few times this season so far. And again, we talked about this last week. Boba, he goes, how would you like a job? And so he just does that crazy-eyed Wookiee like, rock eyebrow thing.
I am Boba Fett.
I am Boba Fett. So let's talk about one of the best scenes in this entire episode that I was super stoked about and wanted to see. It's the concept artwork in our background here of Boba Fett and Fennec in his fire spray gunship, just gunning down the entire Nikto speeder bike gang, and just, oh my god, it was so great. Like, this is the kind of like menacing,
he's got edge to him again.
This edge that Boba Fett has known to have, that like you would expect from him. And I think this is the kind of stuff that we expected from him all season. And this is really the first iteration of seeing, relentless Boba going, hey, you know what? You killed a bunch of people, I'm going to kill all of you. No mercy. Cobra Kai. There we go. And then like Fennec looks over and was like, and I'm like, see, we need more of this. I liked how they got those things out of the way, and we're again establishing the connection between, Boba and Fennec. Like, hey, we got these jobs done. Now what's left over? And they talk with the other territory leaders, right? We get the Trandoshans. I can't think of the other two. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, I thought it was so funny though how the table was strategically placed over the Rancor pit, and like you see its claw come up, and I'm like, hold on a second. The Rancor in episode,
he's gotten bigger, right?
Never did that, and he was said to be a calf when Danny Trejo had come up to us.
I don't really get the logistics of it, but I think it's for visual effect, whatever.
Sure,
that stuff. It's like Jurassic Park, where suddenly there's a giant drop off with cars, and you're just like, I'm just gonna go with it. Fuck it.
Yeah, like what? Where'd the T-Rex walk from then? God, that's a good analogy there, actually, or good comparison. But they agree and abide with Boba, and to go against the Pike Syndicate. And I like the question that Fennec asks Boba, do you trust them? Because that was the same thought process that I had. And he's like, I trust them to do what's best in their, like, I forgot what he said exactly, like in their like own eyes, or to save off their territories so that they don't allow the Pike syndicates to overthrow what they control. Because if that's the case, we also control what we currently control, and then the Pikes can't move in and like assimilate them to like their own syndicate, right? So, and then we get the words, the lines, credits can buy muscle, and then we hear,
and then the Star Wars fan base goes wild.
Oh my god, Mando!
I recognize the theme.
Yeah, he's gonna come in
episode 5.
Yeah. So what do you think about
whatever? Hopefully, it's just like a 1-episode thing, and he comes in. I don't know. I'm conflicted. On one hand, it's like I get that like he was in the Mando show, so it would make sense that he comes back and helps him. On the other hand, it's like I kind of wish that this show would kind of branch out, do its own thing, and it feels kind of like, we're going to take a sidebar with Boba for 3 episodes, and then it just becomes Mandalorian season 3. I don't know. I don't know if they're kind of building to this shared universe Marvel type of thing. I think so. It could be that they are, that like Boba Fett is setting up, the Outer Rim territories, and Mandalore is the other one for Mando season 3, and they're kind of all merging it into this battle, and maybe Thrawn comes in and all this stuff. I'm kind of thinking that's where it's going. I don't know generally how I feel about that. I kind of like stories to be more self-contained. This is like a big qualm I have with Marvel in general, is I don't like when they focus too much on just pushing the expanded universe on everything, like the whole universe aspect where everything has to relate to each other. I kind of like the smaller, like just tell a good story. It doesn't have to be a 16 movie arc. But I get it. I get what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah, I do too. And I do hope it's only for that 1 episode, because I think anything else beyond that, it does start to take over a little bit more. And I hope it doesn't take too long for it to happen either, right? Like, I wonder if they're gonna use episode 5 to establish the reach to get Mando, and then he comes in, and then he's there, and
we
then
better not get another like hallway fight. Like,
you heard it here first,
it's
guys.
Luke. It's Mandalorian. Or
it's going to be like a bounty hunter versus someone else. So as far as the last thing we'll touch upon is this was directed by Kevin Tancharoen. I'm botching his last name so hard. So Tancharoen.
I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not going to try.
Anyway, Kevin T. Is how I'm gonna say it. So sorry, Kevin, if I just completely murdered your name. But yeah, I think he did a really good job directing this episode.
Yeah.
It's strange that episodes 2 and 4 are the 2 that seem to be the better ones.
Is it strange?
That's not. Is it a coincidence that those are the 2 that are not directed by Robert Rodriguez?
No, it's not.
Yeah,
no, it's not a coincidence at all.
So perfect segue into the remaining 3 episodes. I think we're both pretty certain that episode 5 will be directed by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah. She gets 1, Filoni gets 1, Rodriguez gets 1.
Yeah.
Filoni is confirmed for 6, right?
He is confirmed for 6, which he co-wrote with Favreau, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Pikes have someone in their pocket, which I think
Han Solo, something shows up. Something.
I wonder though too. God, I hope it's not Han Solo. I want it to be Cad Bane.
Yeah.
I leave
that could be it actually, or Hondo or something.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I think it's going to be someone relative to who Filoni helped create.
Because he directed the Ahsoka episode.
Right.
So yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, I can see that.
Which would be cool. And I feel like because of where episode 4 is, hopefully 5 is, just as good. And then same thing where we've got this ascension of how good these episodes are. And then the finale, I don't know. Maybe I've already got ideas as to how I'm going to thumbnail that finale episode. Like, the return of Robert Rodriguez.
I hope next week we get Robert Rodriguez, so it's Bryce Dallas Howard doing the finale. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
That'd be great.
Burn
his last direction, but I mean, it's his kind of show, so it makes sense that he'd do premiere finale. So,
just sandwich it all together. So
just don't give him any action in the most action-packed finale episode.
Yeah,
great. What could go wrong?
Don't let him direct the war that happens between everyone on Tatooine, please. That's my only request there. I mean, I think to me this episode really hit the marks, especially things that we talked about. And look, if there's anything to really take away from this episode in a rantiness type of way, it's like, just keep doing this.
Yeah.
And because what I've seen so far, and I know people that I usually speak about the show with haven't yet seen it, but from some of the people that I know have watched it, it's been like the consensus is this episode has been so much better, did a lot of things right. What would you rate this episode?
I'd go with an 8, same as episode 2.
Yep.
I don't think it's ever like, this show isn't hitting like peak Star Wars moments for me, but it's very like in episodes 2 and 4, it's been very, very solid and very enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like it's a solid 8, so between the flashbacks and the tying things together, the expansions on characters, relationships, story, finally.
We also got Max Rebo again. Every episode has had Max Rebo.
We did. Good old Max leading the band. So, I got what I wanted. I got an arm ripped off by Chrysanthemum.
You did.
That's
it's the little things.
It really is, especially in Star Wars. A lot of people love the Easter eggs and the small moments of like, oh my god, like that, and the callbacks to other episode 2, the prequels. I still think the pod racer would have been great instead of
maybe it's coming. Maybe there's a pod racer in the war or something.
Maybe Feluna's like, I got you.
I got
you guys doing with this cowboy hat on.
Watto shows up. I
don't know. Hey, those are no good here. But I think that about will do it for us. So let us know what you guys thought about this episode in the comment section. Did you guys think it was much better, an improvement? Do you hope the trend continues from here on out? And tune in next week as we will be covering episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett. And cheers, everyone.